In this first video, we're going to look at a few different things. First, we're going to have a quick conversation about regions as they relate to Sumerian hosts and the services that they utilize. Next, we're going to create a CloudFormation stack using a template that is going to allow us to configure our Sumerian scene with other AWS services. And then we're going to jump into Sumerian and import a host. Okay, so let's get started. Before we get started with using hosts in Sumerian, it's important to think about what regions you're going to utilize or where you're going to operate out of. Now, it's best practice for Sumerian to use a region that is closest to you. That'll help with rendering and response time with editing your scene. However, when you're using CloudFormation to stack up different services in AWS, like Amazon Lex, Amazon Poly, it's important that you are using a region that is closest to your customers. Now, that may or may not be the same region that your Sumerian scene is in. They don't have to be. However, it's important to think about what services you're going to be using and what regions they're available in. And that has to do with where you're going to launch your CloudFormation stack. So, for example, Amazon Lex is not as available as other services like Amazon Poly. It's offered in less regions. So, for example, if I go to this regions table, the AWS region table, and I go down to Amazon Lex, you'll notice that Amazon Lex is in the Americas is only offered in Northern Virginia or just Oregon. So, Northern Virginia or Oregon. If I go to EMEA and scroll down to Lex again, it is available in Ireland. So it's available in 3 different regions. Now that's important because we need to launch our CloudFormation stack in one of those 3 regions. And so because we are in Seattle, I'm going to be using the Portland region. And so that's where or the Oregon region. So that's where I'm going to be launching my stack. And so if I go over here and this is going to be the next part. If I go to this tutorial, this will help us actually do that. So from this tutorial, and this will be available in the description of this video, there's 2 templates that we can use. First is the AWS IoT template, it's CloudFormation template. The second is the speech and dialogue components, both for Amazon Poly, Amazon Lex. So I'm going to click that button, Launch Stack. And this will take us right into our AWS console. Now, because Amazon Lex is offered in one of those 3 regions, I want to select the region that makes most sense. I could do Northern Virginia, but I'm going to do US West. US West 2, which is Oregon. So I will select Oregon. All right, it will reload. And I can name this stack whatever I want. So I will call this Host Video Course 1. And I do need to check I acknowledge that AWS CloudFormation might create IAM resources. And when I click create, it will start loading a new CloudFormation stack. It takes a few moments for the status to change to complete. So we'll come back once that is done. All right, notice that the status has changed to create_complete. And from there, I will go to outputs. I will expand the outputs and notice that under Cognito Identity Pool ID, there is a value. I'm going to copy this Cognito Identity Pool ID value. And then that's really all I need to do on the CloudFormation side in order to configure our scene or to stand up services that we can use in Amazon Sumerian. So let's go over here to the Sumerian console. I'm here at the dashboard. And let's get started creating a new scene. So I'll select Create New Scene, and I'll call this Host Video Course. Click Create. It'll take a moment to load a new scene. And once it is selected, your top-level entity is already selected by default. And this is the one I want selected because I want to see this AWS configuration component or tab over here in the inspector panel. Once I do see that, I can then open that up and you'll see the Cognito Identity Pool ID text box, and then I can insert my value there. All right. I will shut this down or close that down or collapse it, and that's all I need to do to now be configured with the AWS resources that are specific to using hosts, in this case, Amazon Lex and Amazon Poly. Next step is we just want to import a host. How do we do that? You go to import assets up here. In the assets library, which is what this is, you'll see several different hosts and a lot of other things too, materials and some sky boxes or images, this light switch. So there's a bunch of stuff in here. You also see a bunch of hosts. We have Luke and Wes and Maya, Fiona. If you scroll down a little bit further, you can see Grace, Preston, and Christine. Now, one thing to note is that each host has 4 different clothing options. There's a hoodie, a polo, a t-shirt, and then just their default clothing. So Luke, for example, has a suit. Now, one thing to note is that for the shirt, polo, and hoodie, all of those can be customized. The color and the logo that is on it. Notice that a lot of them are gray, and they also have the AWS logo on there. You can change that color. You can change the logo, and that'll be in a different tutorial, a different video, but just think ahead that you can actually brand to a certain degree. You can brand your host to be whatever you want it to be. I'm going to use Maya hoodie. So I'm going to select Maya, and then I will click Add. She will then be loading in the Assets panel. Once that she is loaded, I'm going to look for, at the very bottom, this Maya hoodie. And it's also next to this hexagon icon. I feel like I say that all the time. Look for the hexagon icon. Still true. Whenever you're importing anything from the Assets library, that's what you want to bring into your scene. So once I see that, that's my entity. I can drag that onto my scene, onto my canvas. Now you'll see Maya hoodie up here in the entities panel, and in just a moment, you will see her loaded in the middle of our scene. There she is. That's all there is to importing a host. Pretty simple. Okay, in the next video...